Good afternoon, students. Welcome back for today's English online class. Today's English class is for 8th standard students. So we were learning about the lesson, the model, millennia. The lesson, this is just about the model and a millennia and the model millennia, who was a model as well as a millennia here. And in this lesson, we have some characters are there. As I have said you earlier, this is a very interesting and a very beautiful story. It is. This is about two friends, Huggy Erskine. Characters in this lesson we find then Alan Trevor, Baron Hausberg, Mr. Ghosted, then Laura Merton, she's she's behind the screen here, Laura Merton. She's not being mentioned anything here. Just these four characters, what we will be learning. Already we have learned about the first paragraph itself about the Huggy Erskine. He is the fellow who is in love with a girl called Laura Merton. He is a very kind and a good looking handsome person he is, and he is being liked by all the men and the women. But his unlucky thing what we find in him is he don't have a good job and a property so that he can marry Laura Merton and live happily. Whereas Laura Merton is a daughter of a colonel, retired colonel, whereas this colonel want Huggy to earn more and more than only he will permit them to marry. That is what they were all waiting for. But Huggy, as he is little bit having some less interest in his work, he is a little bit less hard worker, so always we find him changing the jobs. Some days back he was working in a stock exchange, but afterwards went to the they started selling the tea. Then after a few days he tried of selling sherry also, but later on he gave up all these works. Just he had within him is a 200 pounds. That is what his aunt has given him. He had the 200 pounds with him, but was not enough to marry Laura Merton. Just he need 10,000 pounds. That is what the colonel has asked him to get. So now he is in search of that 10,000 pounds, and he is in planning how to earn 10,000 pounds and marry Laura Merton. Once he will visit to Alan Trevor. Alan Trevor is a good painter here and a good friends. They are good friends. So once Huggy meets Alan Trevor while he was doing a painting of a model, of a beggar model who was standing in one of his corner in his home in the room, and he was a little bit old. He had a very ragged and torn clothes, and he had a hat in one of his hand, and he has a rough stick on which he had a bent his uh, back, and he had a piteous look on his face, and his face was totally wrinkled skin, I think you know. And his coat was ragged brown coat, and which was also torn and dirty, and his boots were also patched. That is what the model was standing. This painting was being done by the Alan Trevor here. That is what work was going on. When Huggy enters his room and when he looks at the model, he finds himself very miserable there. But when Alan Trevor just went out for some important work there. What Huggy did is he searched for a coin there. He got a sovereign. As he thought him as a beggar there, the position in a having a miserable look. So he put that sovereign in his hand, in his hat, thinking that he is a beggar there. There we have stopped the lesson here. When Alan enters the room, again he starts doing the continue the work what he was doing the painting. But when there were only Huggy and the beggar man, as Huggy has given a coin to the beggar man, he thanked him for giving that sovereign there. Now we will continue with the line number 21, where the person beggar man has thanked Huggy here. Now when Alan Trevor enters the room, the conversation will continue with uh, Huggy and Alan there. Then, what is the story? How do we come to the final? That is, irony is there. That is what a very climax where we find a model and a millionaire there. Okay, so let's begin today's lesson or the class with the 21st line. Then Trevor arrived and Huggy said goodbye and left, feeling a little silly at what he had done. See, when Alan entered the room, he had little work there where he had gone outside. When he enters, so Huggy says him goodbye because that was a very long time he was sitting there with him there. So he said goodbye and he left a place there. While going outside, while moving outside, just he thought, what was the right thing? Whether I had given a sovereign to the that model, the beggar man who was standing there in the corner, who was giving a pose, whether I had done a correct or not. That is what was going on in his mind. Then he went out from there. That night, he went to the Palette Club at about 11 o'clock and found Trevor having a drink by himself. So the same night, when he morning he met Alan there. And the same night he went to the one of the Palette Club. There he found at it was at 11 o'clock. There he found Alan was also sitting there, and he was having a glass of a drink there. He was having a drink and he was sitting there, and even Huggy also went near him. And as usual, two friends they meet there. Hi, hello. That is what there. And now when Huggy went there and he asked Alan there, well, Alan, did you get the picture finished all right? He asked as he lit a cigarette. Whereas these two friends are very good friends, they are close to each other, the bonding is very so close that both of them they started chatting there. As have you finished the painting what you were doing in the morning? Huggy asked Alan Trevor, and while talking itself, he lit a cigarette. He had a cigarette in his mouth, and he, with a lighter, he lit it. And whereas we find in the Palette Club, Alan was having a drink there. This is what the way of a style. They were sitting there and they started talking to each other. So now, 24th line. Finished and framed, my boy, answered Trevor. And you might like to know that the world model you saw likes you very much. I had to tell him all about you, who you are, where you live, how much you earn, what you are going to do in the future. So when Haggy asked Alan, Alan said, yes, I have completed the painting also and I have framed because morning itself the frame maker has also has visited there. So already I have framed that painting also. That is what Trevor is saying here. And even what he is expressing here is you might like to know that the model who was standing there in my room, he is so interested in you that he was asking everything about you. The old man, the beggar, was asking about Huggy Erskine. Who is he and where he lives? Huggy Erskine. The beggar man has asked to Trevor there, where does this Huggy lives and what does he do and how much he earns, what is the work he does there, and what is his future plan, what is he going to do in the future. These are all the questions asked by the model to the Huggy, the model who was standing on giving the pose in an erect way, he was standing still there. So that beggar has asked these questions to Alan Trevor. These are about Huggy here. Who is Huggy? How much he earns? Where does he live? And what is his future plans? What is he going to do in the future? These were all the questions asked by beggar now. Okay, listen it carefully and read it carefully so that don't be get confused here. So now, my dear Alan, cried Huggy, I shall probably find him at home waiting for me. But of course you're only joking. Poor old thing. I wish I could do something for him. I think it's dreadful that anyone should be so miserable. I have got heaps of old clothes at home. Do you think you would like any of them? Why his rags were falling to bits. So look at this. When Alan was telling these things, Huggy felt somewhat little bit disappointed, or what he's saying is, my dear Alan, this is what you had done. Why did you say everything about me to that old beggar? Because as I have seen him, he was alone there in the room. So I was just looking at him, but whereas you were so busy, so this is not correct what you have done. You could have not said about him, about me, everything to him. That is what Alan wanted to express here. And he was even expressing something there. Huggy is expressing there is, I think it's dreadful that anyone should be so miserable. He was so unhappy, so somewhat miserable that because of that only I felt a little bit bad. And what I am thinking now is, I have a heap of old clothes. See, with me I have a heap. ನನ್ನ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇಷ್ಟಿಷ್ಟು ಹಳೆ ಬಟ್ಟೆಗಳು, ನಾನು ಹಾಕಿ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿರೋಂಥದ್ದು, ಹಳೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಟ್ಟಿರೋಂಥ ಹಳೆ ಬಟ್ಟೆಗಳಿದೆ. And do you think he would like any of them? Do you think that beggar can take those things? Can I give him those old clothes to him? Can he accept those things? Why his rags were falling to bits. As I had seen him, whatever the dress he was wearing, that was totally dirty and torn, everything. In ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ದಿವಸಗಳಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಹರಿದೋಗುವಂಥ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಹಾಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾನೆ, isn't that? So after looking that, what Huggy thought is, why can't he give his old clothes to him? Because he was in needful. The beggar man was in needful, so he thought of giving his old clothes to that beggar man. Now what Alan will answer is, but he looked so wonderful in them, said Trevor, because he is a painter. Just he looks the models, that is what he'll be finding in them. That is what he's saying is, but as I have found him, he was looking so wonderful that I wouldn't paint him in a good suit for anything. However, I will tell him of your offer. And now tell me, how is Laura? The old model was quite interested in him. Okay, I found him very good and wonderful there in that clothes. ಆ ಮಾಡೆಲ್ನಲ್ಲೇ ನನಗೆ ಅವನು ಬಹಳ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ನಾನು ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಸೂಟ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡಿರೋಂಥದ್ದು ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಹಾಕೊಂಡ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ಪೇಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಮಾಡೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಟಿಲ್ ನಾವು I wouldn't got an opportunity to paint wearing him as a good suit or anything ಅಂತ ಬೇರೆ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ನಾನು ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಪೇಂಟ್ ಮಾಡೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. And okay, I'll tell him about your offer. That what is Huggy's offer is, that is he's thinking of giving his old clothes to the beggar man there. And Alan is saying that, okay, I will send him message that this is your offer. And what about the Laura? She's coming to, he wanted to talk about Laura also, and he's asking, how about Laura? How is she? Is she good? Well, and even the beggar man was also interested in Laura, and the beggar man has also asked about Laura. He knew that Huggy and Laura are in love. Alan has given a proper answer there. What the beggar man was asking is about Laura. That is what Alan is expressing these things when these two friends are sitting in a palette club. These two friends at 11 o'clock, they are sitting in a palette club. They are talking to each other. Alan is telling everything about the beggar man. That beggar man was interested in Huggy, and he has everything about Huggy. And even he asked about Laura Merton. That is what Alan is telling here. You don't mean to say you talked to him about her too? Cried Huggy. So now Huggy, already he knew that Alan has said everything about him, but whereas when he came to know that even he has told all his love story about Laura, that is what somewhat he is Now, little bit felt bad there. Huggy, that is what he is saying. This is not good, Alan. Okay, you have said me, you had told him about me, but whereas now you have told everything about even Laura also. That is what Huggy is saying is, you have said him, you have talked him about her too. Even there is a question mark is also there. Certainly I did. He knows all about the colonel, the lovely Laura, and the 10,000 pounds. Look at this. When Alan has said everything about Huggy, Laura, and their love story, he has said him about the 10,000 pounds. The colonel has demanded 10,000 pounds. Now, Huggy, Laura, and Colonel, and about the 10,000 pounds, there was a topics where the beggar man and the Alan Trevor had a talk, and Alan has said everything about Huggy, Laura, and about the 10,000 pounds to the beggar man. Now the beggar man completely understood the story, the situation, the love story about Laura and Huggy, and what is the reason behind their marriage, why, what is the condition there, why they are waiting for their marriage still now. That is what the beggar man understood now. What is the reason? That is how Huggy was in little bit depression there and sorrow there. That is what he found him, because now he has to earn 10,000 pounds. That is what the beggar man now got all the picture. Now he understood what is the story of a Huggy and Laura. Now here, this is what about the palette club conversation between the two friends there, Alan and the Huggy Ruskin. Now we find some surprise there in this story. That is what we will be seeing here is, so now in the same club, the two friends are talking to each other. Now Alan is telling more and more about the beggar man here. Okay, listen it carefully. You told that old beggar all about me, cried Huggy, looking very red and angry as usual. See, when he is a very unknown person to him, whereas Alan may be knowing him, but whereas this is Huggy, he is a very unknown to that person, and he has also found him in a very beggar costume there. So that is what he find himself some uncomfortable there. That is what. Why did you say everything about me to that beggar? That is what Huggy is asking. Now, Alan, my dear boy, said Trevor, smiling, that old beggar, as you call him, is one of the richest men in Europe. The beggar man is the richest man in Europe. He could buy all London tomorrow and never miss the money. He has a house in every capital city. He eats off gold plates and can prevent Russia going to war when he chooses. What on earth do you mean? Exclaimed Huggy. So look at this. The two friends are talking to each other. When he heard that, the beggar man knew everything about Huggy. Now Huggy is asking, why did you say everything about me now? Then what Alan is telling is, Alan is saying, listen, boy, he's not a beggar man. That old beggar man, he is not a beggar man, but whereas he is the richest person in the whole Europe, the whole continent. And we find him, he could buy all London. He had that power, he had that richest, he had that riches that he can buy whole London. ಅವನಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಶ್ರೀಮಂತನಾಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಲಂಡನ್ ನಗರವನ್ನೇ ಅವನು ತನ್ನ ಸ್ವಂತವಾಗಿ ಖರೀದಿಸಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ಅಂಡ್ ಹಿ ನೆವರ್ ಮಿಸ್ ದ ಮನಿ. ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಅವ್ನು ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಶ್ರೀಮಂತನಾಗೇ ಹುಟ್ಟಿ ಬಂದಾನ, ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಅವನು ಶ್ರೀಮಂತನಾಗಿನೇ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ಹಿ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಅ ಹೌಸ್ ಇನ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್. ವೆರಾಸ್ ಇನ್ ಯುರೋಪ್ ಖಂಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತೀರಿ, ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಸಿಟಿ, ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ದಲ್ಲೂ ಹಿ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಹಿಸ್ own house there. So he is a very richest man in Europe, and often he eats of gold plates. ಅವನ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎದರಲ್ಲಿ ಊಟ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನ್ರಿ? ಬಂಗಾರದ ತಟ್ಟೆ, ಬಂಗಾರದ ತಾಟಿನಲ್ಲಿನೇ ಊಟ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. And he is having so much, is so powerful man, because in Russia going to war when he chooses. So ಅವನು ಒಂದು ದೇಶ ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ದೇಶ ಮೇಲೆ ಯುದ್ಧ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಅದನ್ನ ನಿಲ್ಲುವಂತ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯ ಯಾರಿಗಿದೆ ರೀ? The beggar man, who is the richest man in the whole Europe continent. So after listening these things, now Huggy is in surprise. Whereas he found him in a beggar costume, now what Alan is telling him is totally different. Now what is this? Huggy is in surprise. What is his expression is? What on earth do you mean? So he is in shock there. ಸೊ ಇಂಥದ್ದು ಆಗ್ಬೋದಾ, ಇಂಥವ್ರು ಇರ್ತಾರ ಭೂಮಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಅಂತ ಅವನು ತನ್ನ shock and express ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. That is what he is exclaiming there. And what Alan says now, what I say, said Trevor, the old man you saw today was a Baron Hausberg. He's a great friend of mine, buys all my pictures and that sort of thing. He asked me a month ago to paint him as a beggar, and since he is paying well, I could not refuse. And I must say, I think he made a splendid model. So, and he's telling more about that beggar man is that what are the person you have seen in the morning, the old beggar man was is a barrel houseboat. Is a barren housework, but since many days he was wanted me to do a picture dressed in a beggar man style. That is what we were doing in the morning. He has himself had come to his house, and he was standing in a corner wearing a beggar dress, and whereas he's a very rich person, he can pay him a lot. That is what Alan Trevor, he was unable to refuse also. So he was doing the painting of a very well-known, a richest person in the Europe, Baron Hausberg, wearing a costume of a man and having a piteous look on his face. I think everything is given there in your now in the earlier paragraphs there. What was his the way of style he was standing there, and he was a very rich person. So always he was paying more and more to Alan. Always he comes to Alan Trevor's house and he takes his own portrait there. And this time also when Huggy was there, that is what he found him in the beggar dress there. This is what everything now Alan is expressing or telling to Huggy Erskine. And I must think he made a splendid model. Alan is saying that the way he was standing and the way he was giving a look, the way he was standing, that was a splendid. That was a very good portrait. What I had did also, the way he was standing, he was a very splendid model. So Baron Hausberg, cried Huggy. Good heavens, I gave him a sovereign. Gave him a sovereign? Shouted Trevor, and he burst into a roar of laughter. Look at this. When he knew that the beggar man was a Baron Hausberg, just he thought of a sovereign the day in the morning he has slipped the sovereign in his hat. That is what he is telling, that I have given a sovereign, I have uh, to him in the morning. Now you gave him a sovereign? So Alan was in surprise and he started laughing and laughing and laughing. That is what is given there, into a roar of the laughter. ನಾವು ಗಹಿಸಿ ನಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ ನೋಡ್ರಿ, ದೂರದವರೆಗೂ ಆ ನಗು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಆನಂದ ಖುಷಿಯಾಗಿರ್ತದೆ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಲಾಫಿಂಗ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಲಾಫಿಂಗ್. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ roar of the laughter, the burst, the roar of laughter. So now Alan is in surprise. That is what he found, that is what he thought. He heard that he has given him a sovereign to a very richest person in the Europe. Now, I think you might have told me, Alan, said Huggy crossly, and not let me make such a fool of myself. Alan, this is what you have done. Earlier itself, you could have said me that he is not a beggar man, but he is the richest person. I could have not given him a sovereign. This is what you have not said me everything. This is Huggy is saying here. Well, to begin with, Huggy, said Trevor, I did not think that you went around giving away your money in that way. And really, when you came in, I didn't know if Hosberg would like this name mentioned. Oh, Alan, oh, sorry, Huggy. I was not at all knowing. In this condition, in this situation, you can give a sovereign to that particular man. I was not at all knowing this thing also. As usual, Hausberg, he is not at all interested in expressing his name to anybody else. Always he dislikes that, so he didn't wanted his name should be mentioned there. That is what I did also. I have not said you anything about Hausberg as he was standing as a model there in the corner with a beggar dress. That is what there. That is what Alan is saying here. And what a duffer he must think me, said Huggy. So stupid thing I had done. That is what he might be thinking. Being he got a sovereign from me like an alms there. So foolish I was. He might have thought him me as a foolish also. ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಹುಚ್ಚ ಅಂತಾನೆ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟು ಫೂಲಿಶ್ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ ಅಂತ ಅವ್ರು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ಬೋದು. This is what Huggy is now thinking when he heard about the great person, the rich person, that is Baron Hausberg. Not at all. He was very happy after you left. He kept laughing to himself and rubbing his old hands together. I couldn't understand why he was so interested in you at the time, but I see it all now. He'll invest your sovereign for you, Huggy, and pay you the interest every 6 months. He'll also have a good story to tell his friends after dinner. Now, what Alan is saying, don't worry, it's okay, Huggy. And he was very happy. And when you left there, he had a chat with me. He was very happy after listening everything about you. And don't feel everything embarrassed about there. But he was interested in your story also. He was interested in you also. And but whereas he will invest your sovereign and he will send you your interest also. What Alan is saying is, don't worry, he will return your sovereign back in one or the other way and along with the interest. That is what he is saying. And he is having a very good love story about you and Laura to just to share with his friends. Baron Hausberg got a story now. He had a love story here about Huggy and Erascan so that he can share this love story now with his friends. That is what Alan is saying. Huggy walked home feeling very unhappy and living true, laughing loudly. Now Huggy felt very upset that there are many things he found, he came to know, he understood about Baron Hausberg. And now the last thing what Alan has said, that he has got a very good love story there so that he can share with his friends also. This made Huggy very feel somewhat upset there. So in that upset itself, he left the Palette Club and he started moving outside. Whereas in the same place, even Alan was looking at Huggy, and where Huggy was moving outside, he was still laughing and laughing, and just he was recalling those moments where Huggy said that he has given a souvenir. Okay, so here after this, there is one more twist. This was a surprise what we found about the Baron Hausberg. Again, there is one more surprise is there. That is the climax of the story. Now, the one more character in this story, that is Mr. Gauste, who is a messenger of a Baron Hausberg here. He will come to Huggy now. Let's begin with the 38th line here. The next morning, as he was eating his breakfast, his servant brought in a card on which was written. So morning next day, there was a man was there. He has come to the Baron Hausberg when he was having a breakfast. Whereas one of the servant, Huggy's servant, he brought a card. As we know, there is always a visiting card will be there. So that was on that, it was written, it was a visiting card of a Mr. Norden. Sorry, Mr. Gauste Norden, a messenger of Baron Hausberg. This was the line written on the visiting card. I suppose he has come for an apology, said Huggy to himself, and he told the servant to show the visitor in. What Huggy thought is, Baron Hausberg has sent this messenger just to get the apology there. So, what Ms. Huggy thought that Gauster has come to express his apology there, but the thing was totally different there. Now, he asked the servant to show the visitor in, that is, he can allow the visitor, that Ghoster, to get in. Now the Ghoster will enter the room of the Mr. Huggy Erascan. An old gentleman with gold spectacles and a grey hair came into the room and said with the French accent, "Do I have the honor of speaking to Mr. Erskine?" Huggy bowed. So now the man enters, Mr. Ghost enters the room. There, Huggy was already there in that room. So the man, he was wearing the spectacles with a gold frame and a grey color. He has colored his hairs with the grey, and he was in the French, the way he was speaking the French language, that is was very good as in the style and thing, isn't that? The speaking style. French it was. He was not speaking English, he was speaking French, as the French belongs to Europe countries. So French, and also what he is saying, do I have the honor of speaking to him? So now he is asking that, can I speak to Mr. Huggy? Whereas Huggy was in front of him. That is what Huggy also bowed him, and they also he greeted him, and both of them they are standing in front of him. Now, what the things will happen is, I have come from Baron Hausberg, he continued. ಸೊ ನಾನು ಯಾರ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಕಮ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಬ್ಯಾರನ್ ಹೌಸ್ಬರ್ಗ್. ಅವರು ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ದ ಬ್ಯಾರನ್, ಒನ್ಸ್ ಅಗೇನ್ he is pronouncing his name there. I ask sir that you will offer my sincerest apologies, cried Huggy. So without knowing anything, Huggy started speaking that sir, okay sir, so please ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಸಾರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ರಿ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಅಪಾಲಜಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ, ಸಿನ್ಸಿಯರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅಪಾಲಜೀಸ್. ಸೊ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಟೆಲ್ ಮಿ ಮೈ sincerest apologies. I'm sorry. That is what he's expressing here. Now, what the messenger will answer is, the baron, said the old gentleman with a smile. He asked me to bring you this letter, and he held out a sealed envelope. So Baron, Gostio. So Baron Hausberg, the old gentleman, he is a old gentleman with this broad smile. ಸರ್, ನನಗೆ ಬ್ಯಾರನ್ ಅವರು ಈ ಎನ್ವೆಲಪ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಿಮಗಾಗಿ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ he has asked me to bring you this letter. ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಂತಾನೆ ನಾನು ಇದನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಿ ಕೊಡು ಅಂತಾನೆ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ I have come here and he is handing over the sealed envelope. I think you know the envelope also. Envelope. This is what envelope will be. So cover it with the sealed envelope. So he is handing that to Huggy here. The ghoster is giving this envelope to Huggy now. On the outside was written, a wedding present to Huggy Erskine and Laura Martin from an old beggar, and inside was a check of 10,000 pounds. So let them cover. It was written as a Huggy Erskine and Laura Martin to Huggy Erskine, a wedding present. Gift ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ, isn't that? Always we present some gifts to the newly married couples. That is what Baron has sent, a sealed envelope. The ghoster has given this to Huggy now. When Huggy opens that, he finds a check of 10,000 pounds. 10,000 pounds. ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು 10,000 pounds? Huggy. Now who has given this? Baron Hausberg, who is the richest person in the Europe. In the morning, when Huggy has gone to Alan's house, he was dressed in a beggar man, like a model, and standing for a pose there, whereas Alan was painting his painting there. So a man who is the richest in the whole continent in Europe, once he comes in a form of a model also. So here Hausberg has sent or given her, presented him a 10,000 pounds check was there, CHEQUE. So notice this check. So we are talking about this check here. So now Laura and Huggy were waiting for this 10,000 pounds. Now they got the 10,000 pounds. So immediately they got married there. And the day on the occasion of the wedding of Huggy Erskine and Laura Martin, Alan will speak something there. That is what the two lines are given there at the end of a 45th and the 46th. When they were married, Alan Trevor was the best man, and the Baron made a speech at the wedding breakfast. See, Alan was the best man because of him only he has introduced Baron to Huggy, isn't that? Baron and Huggy were unknown to each other. Huggy was not at all knowing that the Baron is the richest person, whereas he has seen him in the beggarman dress. But Alan, because Alan only in his house they met each other. Now because of him only Huggy got 10,000 pounds. Because of Baron, he is now married happily with Laura Merton. The day on the occasion of the wedding day, Alan is there, and here Baron Hausberg is giving some speech on his day is, and even Baron is saying that, Alan is speaking there. Millionaire models, remarked Alan, are rarer enough, but model millionaires are rarer still. So what the thing is here, whereas Alan is saying that millionaire model, okay, so now Huggy has become a millionaire now. He is a model to everybody because of his sincerity, because of his dedication, devotion. Now the way he was a very good, kind-hearted person, now he has become a millionaire because Baron has given him a 10,000 pounds. He has become a millionaire. He is now got married to Laura. But we can find such people there, but whereas we are rare there model millionaires, isn't that? So, whereas somewhere we find very few people are there who are millionaires as well as the models. Have you seen anywhere the millionaires turning to as a model? Very few examples we find here. That is what Alan is saying here is he is expressing Huggy as a model, and whereas we have found Baron as also a model here. Now Huggy is also millionaire, but whereas Baron Hausberg is already a millionaire since from his childhood he has born with a silver spoon. That is what Alan Trevor is saying that here is so. Millionaire models, remarked Allen, are rarer enough, but model millionaires are rarer still. This is a very good line what Allen is expressing here because he has found Huggy Erskine as well as Baron. They are both are his friends. That is what because of Allen now Huggy has got a very huge and a good opportunity that he got Laura as his wife now. Because of him, Baron Hausberg, Huggy Erskine got married. Isn't that? So this is a story, the model millionaire. Okay. So read the lesson. It is a very interesting and a beautiful story here. It is not an Indian style of a lesson. So this is somewhat we are seeing here is a European country's lesson. So just try to read not only once or twice, more and more. Maybe few words are there which are very new to you. So just get the meanings of those new words, read the lessons, and try to get the answers also. Okay, thank you, students. ಏನು ಶುಭ ಓದ್ತಾನಾ ಏನು